Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into something really vital, the policy and legislative framework for water, sanitation, and hygiene wash in Nepal. Our mission really is to unpack how these laws and policies aren't just documents, but actually form the backbone for delivering wash services. We'll look at, how they developed over time, how they connect, and basically how they shape the whole sector. And for you listening, the goal is to give you a kind of shortcut, a clear understanding of this complex legal landscape. Hopefully you'll get some crucial insights, maybe a few aha moments on how Nepal is translating the right to clean water and sanitation into action. Think of it like building a fortress around this vital resource. How strong are the walls? What are the plans? Let's dive in. So if we're talking about building that fortress, you need a solid foundation, right? For Nepal's wash sector, it seems like the 2015 Constitution is that absolute bedrock, what makes it so critical, not just as a legal text, but as something that really changed things for water and sanitation.
Well, the 2015 Constitution really did fundamentally shift the conversation. It wasn't just about federalism. It enshrined clean drinking water and sanitation as fundamental rights. That's Article 35.
Well, fundamental rights. Okay, that's huge.
Exactly. It means it's not just a government program. It's a non-negotiable right for every single citizen. And beyond that, it also includes the right to a clean environment. That's Article 30, and consumer rights in Article 44. So this combination, it really puts public welfare and environmental integrity right at the heart of WASH.
So it's more than just paving the way, it sounds like.
Oh, much more. It creates this powerful legal shield, It makes it significantly harder for future governments to just, sideline WASH initiatives. It's a real long-term accountability tool.
That's a really profound shift then, from just a service to a right. But a right written down still needs teeth, doesn't it? How did Nepal actually translate those constitutional ideas into specific laws, like the Water Supply and Sanitation Act in 2022?
Absolutely. That act is exactly where those rights start to take practical shape. The Water Supply and Sanitation Act of 2022, it's a direct response to that constitutional promise. It significantly strengthens water governance, especially under the federal system.
Which can be tricky with decentralization sometimes.
Right. Accountability can get diluted. But this act tries to pin down responsibilities, and it really pushes for professional utility management, meaning moving away from, say, ad hoc projects towards a more structured, almost business-like operation of water services, thinking about efficiency, maintenance, long-term financial health. It's genuinely about ensuring water reaches people in practice, not just, in theory.
Okay, so the act sets the big picture for governance. But water is complex. The details must matter a lot. What kind of specifics does the regulation, the one from 2024, actually spell out to make it work on the ground?
Precisely. The Water Supply and Sanitation Regulation of 2024 gets right into those operational details. It lays out the specific procedures, like how water user associations register, how you get a license for providing services, even how tariffs are determined.
Right.
But I think what's particularly new and important is its introduction of key performance indicators, KPIs.
KPIs. Okay, tell me more about those.
Well, they're vital for actually tracking how well things are working, operational efficiency, service quality. Imagine being able to see data showing which districts have water quality issues during monsoon or where pipes break most often.
So moving beyond just anecdotes.
Exactly. KPIs let them pinpoint where services are struggling or even where they're succeeding, so interventions can be much more targeted. It's a huge step for data-driven management, especially in a country with geography like Nepal's.
Makes sense. So we have the Constitution, the Act, the regulation.
Right.
But there are also broader national policies guiding the strategy, right?
Yep.
Can you talk about the National Gwadi H policy first?
Yes, the National WASH Policy of 2023 is, it's very comprehensive. It obviously stresses equitable access to safe water, but it also specifically emphasizes GESI responsive services.
GESI.
Gender equality and social inclusion, and strong community participation. So it means designing services not just for the average person, but specifically thinking about the needs of women or marginalized groups, people with disabilities, making sure access is truly inclusive.
That's crucial.
And it also looks ahead, focusing quite a bit on climate resilience, disaster mitigation, and integrated water resource planning. It acknowledges the long-term environmental challenges Nepal faces.
And that integration point brings up resource management. There's another key policy dealing with water resources more broadly, isn't there?
Exactly. The National Water Resource Policy from 2019, this one really pushes for integrated water resource management, or IWRM.
IWRM. What
Yeah.
does that mean in practice?
It means looking at the whole picture, not just managing a river for drinking water here and for irrigation there and hydropower somewhere else in isolation. It's about managing all water uses across an entire river basin, finding a balance, ensuring sustainable use for everyone. So this policy promotes that kind of river basin planning, improving data systems so decisions are better informed, and really importantly, fostering collaboration between different levels of government to prevent water-induced disasters.
Which is so critical in Nepal.
Absolutely vital.
It feels like a common thread here is empowering actors closer to the ground. I'm curious about the Local Governance Operation Act of 2017. How did that specifically empower local governments in the WSMB sector? What authority did it actually give them?
That's a really good question because the Local Governance Operation Act of 2017 is absolutely pivotal for decentralization. It specifically gives the local governments, so the municipalities and the rural municipalities, the power to plan, implement, and manage WSMB programs tailored to their own local context.
So they're not just implementing directives from Kathmandu.
Not entirely, no. It means communities can push for what they specifically need. Maybe it's a new type of well in an area prone to drought or better sanitation in local schools. It really enables that bottom-up planning. Moving away from a purely top-down delivery model to one that's much more demand-driven and locally owned. You see practical examples like a rural municipality designing a rainwater harvesting system that perfectly fits their unique seasonal water patterns, something a centralized plan might easily overlook.
Is a great illustration of local impact. Now, we've talked about this shift to local governance, which is major decentralization. But what happened with the older, established national players? Like, how did the role of the Nepal Water Supply Corporation and the NWSC evolve alongside these newer regulatory bodies like the Water Supply Management Board?
Right, so historically, the NWSC Act back in 1989 defined the role of the Nepal Water Supply Corporation. Its main job was managing urban water supply systems. That was the traditional model. Then, the Water Supply Management Board Act came along in 2006. Its role is quite different. It's much more about regulating and monitoring water services across the board. It acts as an oversight body. It focuses on improving service quality, ensuring financial sustainability, things like that.
So NWSC still operates the systems in many places.
Yes, NWSC continues its operational role, particularly in urban areas, but the board provides that crucial regulatory layer over the sector. It aims for better overall sector health, better service delivery standards. It's trying to ensure that even with decentralization, there's still some national level oversight for quality and consistency.
Got it. So we have the policies, the laws, the different governing bodies at national and local levels. But how does Nepal actually ensure the quality of the water or the wastewater being discharged? And how do they track progress systematically across such a diverse country? What specific standards or monitoring frameworks are in place?
Yeah, this is really where the rubber meets the road, you could say, in terms of measuring impact. Nepal has put several key technical documents in place. First, the National Drinking Water Quality Standards from 2022. These are critical. They define exactly what safe drinking water means using scientific benchmarks. Gives you a clear, quantifiable measure of quality.
Okay, a standard for safe water.
Then there's the Domestic Wastewater Effluent Standard, also 2022. This makes sure that wastewater being discharged doesn't harm the environment or public health.
Right. And the monitoring part. How do they track if systems are actually working?
That's where the M&E Framework for Water Supply Functionality and Sustainability from 2019 comes in. This framework actually gave birth to NWSMB.
And wash miss.
Yes, it's a digital monitoring system. It tracks water supply functionality right across the country. And this is so important because historically, a big challenge for WASH projects everywhere, not just Nepal, is long-term functionality. Systems get built, but then they break down or aren't maintained.
The silent failures.
Exactly. And Mashimas, because it's digital, provides real-time or near real-time data. It helps pinpoint those systems that might look fine on paper, but haven't actually delivered water in months. This allows for timely intervention, prevents resources being wasted on systems that aren't working. It really shifts the focus from just counting how many taps were installed to measuring sustained service delivery.
Wow. We've really covered a huge amount today. From that constitutional bedrock through the specific laws and regulations, the guiding national policies, and right down to these granular monitoring systems like NWSMB. It seems clear Nepal has made really significant, very systematic strides in setting up the rights, the responsibilities, the rules for its WASH sector.
Absolutely. There's no doubt Nepal has built a very solid foundation on paper. The rights, the responsibilities are well defined. But, translating these really robust laws and policies into services that are genuinely universal, equitable, and sustainable, that still needs significant ongoing investment. It needs innovation. And critically, it needs sustained collaboration between all levels of government and, very importantly, with the communities themselves. The key challenge, the ongoing need, is making sure that the implementation on the ground consistently matches the ambition and the legal intent laid out in these frameworks.
That's a really powerful and essential point to end on. So as you, our listener, think about these frameworks, this whole journey from a right defined in the Constitution to trying to ensure someone actually has clean water from their tap every single day. Maybe consider this. How might strengthening that dialogue, that connection between the policymakers and the communities they serve, how might that further accelerate progress towards truly universal and sustainable WASH services for everyone in Nepal? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope you gained some valuable insights.